All right, everybody, this week we're talking about the top 10 dumbest rules I've seen in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies. Guys, my name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top-level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. Black belt under Master Pedro Sauer and Tony Rinaldi. You're watching Professor's Corner. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get to it. So I've been to a lot of different Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies, and I've had students travel out of town a lot, students coming from other schools to mine. And these are the top 10 things that I've seen that I think are just, I don't even want to say rules, but dumb things I've seen at tournaments, rules at academies, and just like things that I've noticed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I just think don't make sense for any number of reasons. And I'll explain each one. Let's just get to it with the first one. And these are generally in order, but like I'm going to say like the top 4 here could be in any order. You know, they're all going to get your goat probably. So we'll see what's going on. The first one, number 10, is poor coaching strategies. What do I mean by that? I would say this: if you're not sure what to say in your coaching, so like a lot of times it's like, you know, you're just doing your best, right? You're there with your buddy. Your coach couldn't come. Why? Because maybe he works another job. Maybe he has a family and can't make it to all the tournaments, you know, like that kind of stuff. And you're just like doing your best. The best thing you can do is tell them the score and tell them the time. That's it. Leave the rest out. Because if you can't communicate exactly how they should deal with a certain situation, you're really probably not helping them. Maybe even say, hey, it looks like they're setting up an armbar. Something like that, if you know jiu-jitsu. So what are the poor coaching strategies I see? I see it all the time, and you're going to know. The number one that I hear is be first. Now look, I understand the value of getting your grip first and all that kind of stuff. But be first is really a meaningless thing to say. You need to establish your grip set. Saying be first could mean anything. And what it does is it puts someone in a hurried mindset and they're just like, oh, and they just grab, right? Establish your grip set. That's really what you mean when you're saying be first. But it's going to help jog their memory as to what exactly they're doing. Oh yeah, boom, collar grip, got it, right? That's what you really mean. So learn to communicate those things on the fly under the pressure of being a coach. Same thing from the bottom. Bump, just bump. No. Establish frames on the hips, right? Or maybe you've got a gi on, right? Control the wrist, control the elbow. Keep your elbows on the inside position. Now you can talk about hip escaping. Now you can talk about a little bit of bumping, right? Like good coaching advice is going to be technical as well as conveying a sense of urgency. I understand why you're saying bump so fast. Maybe there's like 30 seconds left and they just got to make something happen. You're almost better off saying that. Guys, 30 seconds left, you're down by 2. You've got to make something happen. That's a much more valuable thing to say than bump, explode, push. Like those things aren't anything you would say to someone on the mat if you were just training. So they're probably not something you should be saying in the middle of a tournament. All right, so that was number 10. And that one's more like, you know, it could have been on the list. It might not have been. Not a big deal. You know, that's just more of like, maybe we got to learn some communication. Number 9 is one that's always bothered me, even back in the day. For those who don't know, I come from a very traditional martial arts lineage. I've done Pukulan Kung Fu, done Taekwondo, Shotokan Karate, Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, Sogo Bujitsu. I've spent a lot of time in dojo, you know, with very strict very strict rules about how you get on the mat, who you bow to, when you bow, the things, what you call people. And one of the things I always hated and never liked was looking across the room and seeing some adult, some guy who came in probably hurried after work. He's paying like $100 at that time because I was like, you know, 15 years old. He's paying $100 a month to train. And like, because he gets off work at 5:30 and can't make it by 6, he makes it at 6:10. He's having to do 100 push-ups every time. The difference if you're like, and like I've asked about it and they're like, well, they need to learn the discipline to get here. So what are they supposed to do? Get a speeding ticket? Now they're paying like 3 times as much to get to class. Like, I don't understand that. And if you want them to warm up, because I've heard that too, like, well, I don't do it so much as a discipline. I just want them to warm up. Then just tell them, hey man, we did these things for warm up. Why don't you just get a little movement in before you start the drills and everything? I don't want you to pull a muscle. Like, be a human about it. Don't act like a drill sergeant, because you're not. It's something that always bothered me. So the next one, And this one's about how people start matches. And I remember this from years ago. I saw a video, it's on Submissions 101. It's Eddie Bravo. And he's talking about how he hates when people start matches on their knees. And I've always hated that too. And I remember asking, I'll just say someone about it. And they said, well, what I know about it is that it prevents injuries. And it's like, okay, but so does one person starting on their knees and the other person starting on their guard. One person starting on the knees and the other one starting in turtle. Like, no matches ever happen with two people on their knees. I understand the idea. Like, if you want to avoid takedowns for the day or whatever, maybe there's too many people on the mat, whatever the situation is, like, there's plenty of other ways to start that are actual jiu-jitsu positions that happen in training and happen on the mat. So, like, starting on the knees is really not one of them. One of you start in turtle and the other one start in like a pseudo referee's position? Why don't one of you start, with someone on your back? Start in the guard. Start in bad positions. Bottom side control. Start in those kind of positions. One standing, one down. There's plenty of other ways to start that don't require takedowns and are going to actually mimic something that people are going to experience either on the mat in a self-defense scenario. Because like, even a self-defense scenario, what are we doing by both of us being on our knees? It doesn't make any sense. You would be getting up at that point, right? So anyway, that's one that's always bothered me. Oh God, this next one kills me. So for those of you who don't know, I do have a degree in exercise physiology, certified strength conditioning specialist. I absolutely hate this. Don't strength train outside of jiu-jitsu. It'll make you too big. And I know that sounds weird coming from a man who's 240 pounds and kind of built like I am. Strength training doesn't have to make you big. You don't accidentally get big and strong from strength training. That is something you have to eat to do. It is something you have to train very specifically to do. It doesn't happen by accident. One of the best I heard was Andrew Lewis, who is a starting strength coach out in Indianapolis. He said, you don't accidentally become Arnold Schwarzenegger. Strength training will increase your bone density. It's going to protect your internal organs as you build muscle. It's going to keep your metabolism high. Strength training has so many benefits for you. You should absolutely be doing it outside of jiu-jitsu. Now, if you want to strength train in a way that also helps your jiu-jitsu, there's ways to do that. By the way, kettlebells is not one. Sorry, I love you, Joe Rogan, but you're just wrong. There's ways to do that. But telling people not to exercise is dumb. That's bad advice. Period. I wouldn't care if it was in jiu-jitsu, anything else. Look at the top athletes in the world. And I'm not talking about the top jiu-jitsu guys. I'm talking about people who play football, soccer, basketball, literally any sport where they're getting paid millions of dollars to do it. Guarantee you, not only do they have lifting curriculums, they have a certified strength coach on staff to make those people better at what they do. You should be doing it too. I'll get off that tirade. All right. This is another one. Don't use strength. Don't use muscle. Okay, I get what you mean by that. Like, we've all been there. Guy, this person who's in their first 6 months of training, they just grab the ends of your pants and they're like, "Argh!" and they just throw them. Or, you're on top of side control and they're just, "Yeah," and try to throw you off. Yes, you're right. That's all muscle. That's completely wrong. There's no technique in that. Although I'll make the argument that if they make it work, then maybe your technique is bad that you didn't counter it, but it still doesn't make what they did right. So I get what you're trying to convey. But what you're really trying to say is don't use explosion in place of technique, because muscle is required to move your body. All right. And I think everybody understands what I mean the moment I say that, right? Your muscles have tendons, and those tendons are attached to skeleton, and then that makes the skeleton move, right? Like, that's how we move. You have to use muscle in everything you do. Moreover, saying don't use your strength is silly, because there's times to absolutely use your strength. Just like if someone's fast, there's times that they should absolutely use their speed. If someone is flexible, there's times they should absolutely use their flexibility. But what they shouldn't be doing is using those in place of proper technique. If the best you can do, like that's one of the things I don't like about buggy chokes and rubber guards and stuff, is because we're taking our body and contorting it into a really weird way. And even if you don't feel it because you've got some weird hyperflexibility in your knees and stuff, I mean, there's plenty of videos of people snapping their own ligaments in their knee, doing things like buggy chokes, doing things like a rubber guard. I mean, one, I saw a guy, he was even like pulling down a triangle and he broke his own leg doing it, just because he wasn't aligned properly. So saying don't use your attributes isn't correct. It's don't use your attributes in place of proper technique. That's what matters. The simple fact is, if I lock on a triangle and I'm in proper technique, the last thing left is the squeeze, right? And that is 100% muscle. You're going to use your muscle to do that. The stronger you are, the tighter that squeeze is going to be, assuming everything is in place properly. Simple as that. And this one kind of goes along with it. So we're down to number 5, and like 5 and 6 kind of go together. I probably could have made them one, but this one I'm bringing up because one of my students went and visited a school not too long ago, and I'm not going to say the school's name at all. I'm not going to say the student's name, but he goes and visits a school, and he's a bigger guy for sure, but he's one of the kindest human beings I've ever met. And he had a couple things that are on this list. That's kind of what stimulated me to do this list, that happened to him. And one of them was, don't use your weight. Guys, if you don't know what weight is, it's mass times gravity. Saying don't use your weight is literally saying don't allow the force of gravity to pull you down. Like, I don't know how you do that in any position. Like, you're supposed to melt onto people and use your weight. Now, I wasn't there, and I mean, I've rolled him a million times. It's not in his nature to just sit there and pin somebody. But the simple fact is, if you can't handle the weight of someone larger on top of you, that's okay. But don't let that hit your ego and then tell people not to use their weight because of it. Because using your weight properly is good technique. That's proper technique. Placing his hips in the right way, putting his feet in the right way, melting down. Now we're in side control. And why do you do that? Because now the person on the bottom has to overreact to get out. And when they do, now they're open for a submission, right? That is one of the several ways to create a submission opportunity. Now, that's not the only way. This guy's a blue belt. Keep that in mind. So that's the way he does it now. Eventually, of course, he'll use his weight and he'll see, oh, wait a minute. When I do that, they can't move at all. And when they can't move at all, now it's hard for them to even give up the submission. So eventually, he's also going to learn to use the weight, get them pushing a little bit, and then back the weight off. And when he does, they're going to feel that and they're going to explode. In other words, he's going to give them movement in the direction he wants, and then that's going to open up the submission. So it's the same thing, but we've got to use our weight. You have to. Like, it's your mass times gravity. If you're using gravity, you're using your weight. It's that simple. And I don't even understand that advice. Like, I don't get it. That's like telling a little guy not to be little. I don't know what you're supposed to do there. All right. So those things that I went over are more like, things that happen like more on an individual basis, right? But like this next one is more of like a school-wide thing, and it is not following your schedule. People's time is valuable, and I realize, like, I don't consider jiu-jitsu schools the same as like when you go on Reddit or whatever, like everybody's like, oh, you pay to be there, it's a gym, you know, they I don't look at it that way. It's a private club. That's how I look at jiu-jitsu schools and martial arts schools in general. They're private clubs. They're allowed to have rules, and should have rules, frankly. You know, that's why we can kick out pedophiles. That's why we can kick out people who are inappropriate with women. That's why we do that. Is part of being a private club is having a standard of conduct. And part of that standard of conduct is following a schedule. You have a schedule posted. Go by it. I never understood why people, and look, if you live in Brazil and that's the culture of Brazil, then that's fine. I'm not talking to you. That's fine. But in America, in the States, people have jobs. People have a wife to go home to. They have kids to go home to. They're counting that they get here at 6:30. They're out by like 7:30, 7:45 and able, you know, after they shower or whatever, and they're able to tuck their kids in at night. And when that gets messed up, man, they start taking a lot of flack at home. And the minute that starts happening, that's the beginning of the end for their training. And all because you couldn't follow a schedule. If you're an instructor, be on time. Follow the schedule that you post. And if you can't follow it, don't be an instructor. Or turn yourself into a club and say, hey, we start around 5, it might be 5:15. Just be honest with people about how it's going to be. And then they'll be cool. Like, if they know that's what to expect, they're cool with it. But when people come here, they expect the class to start right on time. They expect it to end on time. They can be in, they can be out, they can get their workout in and be gone. That's what most people want. So I think it's just rude to not take people's time seriously. Follow your schedule. All right, next one. Leg locks are dangerous. Think leg locks are dangerous? Try holding a choke on for 60 seconds. Do I need to say more? Yeah, leg locks are dangerous. So are arm bars. So are chokes. So is everything we do. Everything we do is dangerous. It's about how you teach it, how you approach that teaching, and how you structure everything with it. The reason, so in my academy, for example, I teach every leg lock from white belt up. They all learn them. I don't let them use them live in training, specifically twisting, heel hooks, and things like that. Things that are going to attack the knee and the ligaments of the knee, because a lot of those white belts, while they can learn the move for sure and should be learning the move, they don't know how their body moves yet. And you know what I'm talking about. Like they come in that maybe they did some form of wrestling and all they know is boom, go fast, go hard, right? Like you go fast, go hard, and you hit an arm bar like that. Oh man, my arm hurts for the next couple of days. Or worst case scenario, maybe we tore a ligament or tore a bicep tendon and like I have to be in a sling for a few weeks. Probably still able to do my job. You do that to my knee, that's a 9-month recovery. If you tear an ACL or mess up several months of recovery out of the gym, you're not training now. The gym is losing money because of it. And it's not because the move was dangerous. It's because you let the wrong people use it at the wrong time. You've got to teach them how to use them. They've got to understand how to get a move into a position and then hold it, which is something that white belts generally don't do. They think, let's put ourselves in our white belt brain. We have a submission, let's say an arm bar, and the person isn't tapping. As a white belt, you think, I'm doing it wrong. So you start adjusting and pulling different directions and harder. And it turns out it was on just fine. The other person just didn't recognize it. Or maybe they were working an escape and snap, it breaks. As a black belt, I say, this is on right. Oh, they're working something. Cool. And I'll even like let a little bit of pressure off because I don't want to accidentally tweak it if they roll weird. Let them out, let them work. Got to go back into that white belt brain though sometimes. Same thing with a heel hook, right? If I put a heel hook on and I'm here with it and I'm like, this is on. Like I know that I don't need to hip in yet, right? My knees are pinched. Like this guy's not moving, but I still feel him trying to get out. Oh, okay, he's trying to do the move. Well, maybe we'll let the heel slip this time. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just hold him in position and just stare at him until he realizes that this is just done. And then he taps. But what I'm not going to do is go, maybe it's not right. And then hip in and twist. And like next thing you know, something pops. That's about knowing where your body is in space. It's about understanding if the position is correct. By the time you get a few years of training under your belt, you can do those things better. That's what's dangerous, is not knowing where your body is. So it's not about the leg lock. It's about the positioning of the body. All right. So these last couple can go in any order really. And they both make me angry. One of them is no cross training. What are we talking about right now? Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, at least in America, is built on cross training. It's built on guys coming into a school that was not theirs, training with them to show it works, and then saying, hey, do you want to learn this or not? Now, at the time, those were called Gracie challenges. And I realized like, I didn't even like them at the time, but like it's what jiu-jitsu was built on, was going to other places. And during that time, there weren't black belts everywhere. We weren't, we're a dime a dozen now. I get it. But at that time, like you had to travel to seminars, you had to travel to other people's schools that were 2 hours away to go learn, some new concepts, some new techniques to bring back and train with your buddies. Like training other places is a hallmark of jiu-jitsu in America anyway. And I know that like back in the day, back in Brazil, it wasn't like that. But we're not in Brazil, we're in America. And in America, that's just part of the community. So if you don't want your people to cross-train or you don't want people cross-training with you, that's fine. Don't let them in. But again, going back to that student of mine who visited, they allowed him in. They took his money. And then after that, they yelled at him about using his weight. And then the black belt instructor there said, I only train with my students. Like, why are you even taking this guy's money? Like that is just a bozo thing to do, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I can understand if you're injured, like, hey man, I got a bad back. You're kind of a bigger guy. I would love to train with you. Come back and when I'm better, I'd be happy to, but I can't right now. No problem, right? I'm 44. I get it. But like looking at someone who like came here to get an experience, and you're just going to be like, oh, I only train with my students. Well, then give him his freaking money back, right? Like, what are you doing? I just don't get it. Like, I think that's silly when you don't let people cross train. And I think that specific attitude pisses me off even more. Maybe it's a little too close to home. I don't know. Crossing it off. Boom. Cross training is fine. Do cross training. All right. And then this one kind of goes into the other one. It is schools that don't allow you to ask a higher belt to roll. What's the point? What's the point? What's the point? Like, you need to have the right to ask anybody to train, right? Like how are you supposed to get better if you never feel what better feels like? If all you ever do is smash the little guy, then how do you know what better feels like? I'm lost. I'm lost on how this person's supposed to get better. Look, the key is having a rule system in place that says you have the right to ask anybody to roll, but they can say no for any reason. And then having no ego about that. Like if I say, hey man, do you want to roll today? And he's like, no, I'm not up to it. And be like, okay, cool. Like, don't take it personally. Don't take it as hate. It just didn't, for whatever reason, I don't even need to dig into it. Maybe I'm like, are you all right? And he's like, yeah, just tired. Okay, cool. Maybe he does hate me. Maybe he doesn't, but he didn't feel like rolling. And that's all that matters. I'll just go on to the next person. Hey, you want to roll? Want to train? Okay. And like, let's say you're like, I'm an aging guy, right? So there's sometimes I don't feel like training with young, fast, strong guys. I just don't feel like it. I'm not up to it. But what I'll do instead is I'll say, you know what? Yeah, I'll roll with you, but I'm going to be honest. I'm not feeling on today. Can we just start in bad positions? You start on my back and then I'll start on yours and we'll just keep switching back and forth like that. Something like that. Turn it into like a little game so that it doesn't have to be this like long drag out thing that's going to exhaust your body, right? That's how you should be doing 75% to 80% of your training anyway. All right, guys, that's really all I've got. I could go on with some of these for a while, but that's all that I had on my list. So what do you have on your list? What did I miss? And I'm going to do another one of these so I want to see what's on your list, because I'm also going to do ones that I think people misinterpret or that I think you're just wrong about. Because I know there's some on my list that weren't on my list that you're thinking of, and I'm going to tell you why I think you're wrong. So we'll see how that one goes too. Anyway, guys, don't forget, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. It really does help me a lot. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.